I'm Alex Larson, dietitian, Ironman finisher, and host of Endurance Eats, the podcast where we break down the science of endurance nutrition and turn it into clear, practical nutrition advice to revolutionize how you think about fueling your body. So grab a seat, or keep moving if you're out training, and let's get started. Welcome back to the bonus series of the Endurance Eats podcast. These are the mid-season fuel episodes. They are short and sweet, but packed with actionable info. While I am prepping for the next season of this podcast, I am answering questions from my amazing endurance athlete community. All right, let's kick this off with question number 1. At what point do you need to start bringing water and gels on a run? Can you do 10 miles without? Here's the guidelines, the recommendations, but these are not rules, okay? This isn't like you breaking the rules. This is you taking the guidelines and recommendations and then tweaking as needed and finding what works best for yourself. So you certainly are going to have to make that decision because it's always going to depend on the unique situation. So for workouts shorter than 75 minutes, the guideline is 0 to 30 grams of carbs. For workouts longer than 75 minutes, you're definitely going to want to consider a refueling plan during that run. Anywhere from 30 to 60 grams of carbs. If you're in the 2 to 2.5 hour mark, you'll need to go even beyond that. I'm going to refer you back to episode 1 of the podcast for even more details on fueling during your workouts and how much carbs to be aiming for. And notice that I'm talking in timeline. I'm not talking in miles. That's something that I think a lot of people think like, oh, I'm only running 3 miles. But if it's taking you, 30, 40 minutes to do that 3-mile run, then we need to consider like, okay, how much effort is being put into it? Maybe you're a newbie runner and you're not a very efficient runner yet. You need to look at it in terms of time, not necessarily miles. A great example, again, would be like, especially for cyclists, if it's a really windy day, it's going to take you a lot longer to do a ride versus if there's no wind. And if it's going to take longer, then you might need to take extra fuel with. So consider it more by time, not necessarily by mileage. And in the situations where maybe you didn't fuel well before the workout, maybe you didn't eat well the day before, maybe you're doing a recovery run after a couple days of really hard workouts and you're going into that recovery run with some depleted glycogen stores in your muscles, you may want to take in more carbs than the recommended guidelines. With hydration, here are some questions that I would ask first. How hot and humid is it outside? How hydrated are you before even going into this run? How long of a run are you planning to do? Are you a heavy sweater usually? If it's hot out, I would start the run very well hydrated, and I'd plan to take fluids for anything over 30 to 45 minutes. I'm a fairly heavy sweater, and I also like to practice taking in high volumes of fluid during my running so that my stomach is used to that for race day. That way I can run up to the aid station at the race and consume enough fluids and not have it feel like I'm forcing it down and have it be very uncomfortable and potentially have that discomfort of that jostling motion. I need to be able to adapt my gut to be able to take in the amount of fluids I need to on the race to prevent dehydration. Generally, for any activity over an hour, I'd recommend switching to an electrolyte-rich fluid, or I'd take some salt tablets with if I'm just going to use plain water. These are the things that I teach my athletes to think about the unique situation and be intentional about fueling and hydrating yourself well. Don't be the type of athlete that tries to get away with just as little fluid and fuel as possible. Take care of your body, and your training will be so much more enjoyable, and your body will take really good care back to you. Next question comes from Megan on Instagram. She says, "Hi Alex, I love your podcast. I've recently started to increase my protein. I've been feeling really good the last few days and have more energy, which is a good sign. But I also noticed the scale is going up by a few pounds. Do you think this is a coincidence and will level out? I'm trying to lose weight. I'm in active cycling and strength training, but have the hardest time losing weight." Hey, Megan, I am so glad that you love the podcast. That makes my heart so happy. And I think when the scale jumps up a few pounds, After making some changes in your nutrition, I first of all recommend not panicking. This is not the time to continue then doing more drastic changes with your diet if you see the scale jump up a little bit. Anytime that we change our nutrition, there's often some fluid fluctuations. Sometimes we see the scale jump down, sometimes we see the scale jump up. So I would monitor your weight to see if it stays up, continues to trend up, or if it fluctuates back down. Especially for women with menstrual cycles, we often will see water weight fluctuations. Take, that into account as your cycle changes, every 28 to 32 days. So if you're constantly making changes in your diet, though, you're never going to have any consistency, and this makes it really difficult to actually see progress in body composition results. Now, let's say, hypothetically, Megan's weight continues to trend upward after increasing her protein. And here's where I would probably look first, because what I tend to see when protein goes up, the fat intake also will increase as well, because a lot of the protein-rich foods will also have some fat with it, and fat is actually very calorie-rich. So it adds up quickly. So with protein and with carbohydrates, a gram of each will be about 4 calories. With fat, it has 9 calories per gram, so it's over twice as much calories. So the calories can add up really quickly if you increase your fat intake. So with both fat and protein increasing in your diet, it may have increased your calories just too much, and that's the reason why you're seeing some weight gain. So if you're going to increase protein, I recommend seeking out some leaner protein options. The culprits that I often see people including too much of is nuts, seeds, peanut butter, avocado, some higher fat meats, maybe some baked goods. They're a little heavy on the oil usage in their cooking. Those are things that we can very easily just kind of monitor and bring down a little bit to keep the calories in check, but still keep that protein nice and high. And fat isn't bad. It's definitely something we need in our diet. If we see fat intake go too low, that can really mess with hormones. Fat also adds flavor. It adds satiety, can help keep you full for longer. So we don't want to cut fat out of our diet. We just need to be mindful about how much and how often you're including the higher fat protein options so that they don't put your calories over and you see weight gain. So I hope this helps. Feel free to follow me on Instagram. I do an Ask Me Anything series in my Instagram stories on occasion. You can submit your questions there. I often will take those and even answer them here on the podcast. And if you're wanting more personalized help, feel free to reach out. We can talk more about that one-on-one coaching program, see if it's a good fit for you. And there's more information on the program. You can head to alexlarsonnutrition.com. So happy fueling, happy training.